Welcome to the Football Chris Show, where my name fits conveniently in the initials.
That was a disgusting performance.
On this show, we cover the hottest topics around the FCS each and every week.
Yeah, it's my job to get them ready. I'm running around like trying to get them jacked up.
If you could do us a favor, if you're listening in podcast form, could you please leave us a 5-star rating?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, bud.
I think in general it was a pretty uninspired day.
If you're watching on YouTube and Sam Herder hates your team, leave us a like and smash the subscribe button.
If you call Nick, you know you'll get cussed out on the spot, so don't do that. Treat me like Nick.
Oh, and one last thing before you enjoy the show.
One last thing, Will. Tell them to bring me my money.
This show is an affiliate show of FCS Fans Nation Network.
I mean, I'm going to be as frank as I can be. I'm glad it's over.
On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down, before the season starts, kind of a power rankings of the 2021 offseason or 2022 offseason coaching hires. Something to keep in mind, there was 21 hires in the FCS this past offseason. That means 16% of the FCS is about to experience turnover of some sort at the head ball coach position. We're going to go through and rank all 21 of them and see where we go. Now, I have been doing conference previews. So I've been watching a little bit of media days. So some of this is what I've seen off media days, but a lot of this is just doing the research on their histories, either from the team's websites, Wikipedia's, some fan board or, message board fodder. So this is my list. It doesn't mean it's an exact list. Take that for perspective. I'm not out here for anybody's job. So, even if you rank 21 on this list, you could very well still end up being a good coach at the FCS level. I'm just saying the 2021 class, you were coming into it not a very good coach. Now, feelings aside, none of these coaches watch this stuff. It's rat poison, as the best would say. Starting with number 21, I worry you because Butler, what are you doing here? You hire Mike Iramovich from Temple. He was the offensive coordinator. It's his first, number one, head coaching stint. He has been around college coaching for 22 years. However, the leaving of Temple was suspect. Not so much him, but the head coach was basically kicked out due to a coup. They believe that the coaching staff, specifically the head coach in most articles you read, had lost control of the Temple locker room, which led to an entire staffing change. Obviously, Mike was a part of that, but it's never a good look when you're giving your guys first nod as a college coach after just basically being forcefully removed from their old job because the players didn't like them. So Butler, I think you could have done better there. And some of this is judging these teams also based off what they are, right? Not necessarily the coach they hired, but like if you're Butler, you have some history there with the basketball program. Like, come on, make a little splash. There's some coaches later on this list that I think, a team like a Butler could have pulled off. So that was number 21. Let's move into number 20. So coming in at 20, the Long Island Sharks hire Ron Cooper, whose last job, he was a senior analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is his fourth stint as a head coach, although it's his first real stint since 2001. He spent some time in Eastern Michigan, Louisville, and then Alabama A&M. He also was an interim head coach for Florida International, the Panthers, where he went 4-4 in the 2011 season. So, he really hasn't been a head coach in a while. So maybe there is some time for him to have learned a couple things in his time since being the head coach. He's 49-59 all time, so losing record. This will be his 10th season as a head ball coach. He's had 3 winning seasons in that time. He spent 5 years as an assistant at some FCS schools, including App State, Austin Peay, and Murray State. I'm going to put him at 21, though. I wanted to put him a little higher. He has the Alabama system. I actually shocked looking at where I ranked him. I thought a little bit higher, but I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that Michigan's really, if you take out Eastern Michigan, he hasn't really been higher than like Kentucky and coaching up north. Now he's going to coach on Long Island. Just interesting hire. He is a Jacksonville State alumnus, so that might help him being from a traditional, what we've considered in our Blue Blood episode, sort of one of those top 25 all-time programs at the FCS level. So he has that going for him. This might be one where I was a little too harsh on Ron Cooper, but there are some good hires. It was a competitive field this year. That number 19, we have Alabama State hiring Eddie Robinson Jr. He is an alumnus of Alabama State. He did play in the NFL, and he spent basically the last part of his career working in real estate. He was picked 50th in the 1992 draft. He spent over 10 seasons in the NFL with the Oilers, Jags, then the Titans, and then ending it with the Bills. He has zero head coaching experience and zero coaching experience, really, period, accredited to him. He has spent time as an analyst, which maybe why I'm a little, biased to him. That could be me here in a couple of years. Maybe that's why I'm not making him dead last in these rankings. He spent time with Fox Sports South, ESPNU, ESPN3. He's done some stuff with Comcast. For the better part of a decade, he was co-host of a weekly television show Inside the SWAC from 2006 to 2009, so he understands the conference, and continues to broadcast collegiate football games on the radio and appears on sports podcasts as featured guests, so like me. So maybe, hey, Alabama State, if it doesn't work out, next. Dibs, calling it next. So I'm obviously pulling for Eddie Robinson Jr. I think it would be dope to have a guy who's basically been a pundit for most of his and a successful business person, but after his NFL career was done, basically a pundit. Why not me? At 18, and this one actually hurts my soul, I'm going with Idaho State's hire Charlie Ragle. He's coming to Idaho State in Pocatello as a former special teams coordinator for Cal, not a powerhouse Cal, right? It's his first head coaching job. It's his first experience really in the FCS. He does have some experience at the high school level where he went 63-7. I like everything that Ragle has said. Listening to his press conferences, listening to him at media days, seeing his introductory, knowing that I'm a big believer in what Pauline Theros is putting together in Pocatello. I think they are fixing that athletic department that really hasn't been good since the 80s. This one killed me to put it there, but when you just look at resume compared to some of these other guys, Ragle was just a tough one. He has no head coaching experience. So, that makes him a bit of a wild card. Ragle could definitely climb up these rankings because you never know until a guy's in that role how they'll perform in a head ball coach role. So hopefully Ragle can pull it off. It killed me to put him at 18 because I am a believer in Ragle, but just when comparing resumes, he just keeps slipping down and down from where I had him. At 17, we have ETSU hiring George Quarles. He was an OC for Furman for about 5 seasons. It's his first head coaching stint collegiately, but he has spent like a ton of years with tons of success at the high school level. At his introductory press conference, he actually started getting emotional, straight up crying, because he is an East Tennessee guy who is just excited to be back in East Tennessee and Tennessee specific. So that was cool to see. Maybe it pulled at my heartstrings a bit, so I did move him up a little bit on this list, since he spent multiple years at the high school ranks and has only really collegiately been playing for 5 with Furman, who's been notoriously a choker over the last 5 years. Makes me a little bit concerned about this hire, but he's got a winning program, right? He can't crash it. So ETSU's athletic department just must have been okay taking the risk on this guy, and I believe it. He basically reminds me of Coach Taylor from the Friday Night Lights show. That's the best way I could put it. Like extreme success at the high school level, a couple different teams, through some challenges, just really happy to be where he is. And sometimes that's important, really wanting to be where you are. So I put ETSU's hire of George Quarles at 17, which brings us to another guy who's just happy to be where he is at 16. Southern Utah hires Delane Fitzgerald. He was formerly the Frostburg State University head coach. He is an alumni of James Madison, which gives him a little bit of browning points above the people that we were just talking about. It's his 14th season as a head coach. It's his 3rd team. He's been the head coach of Southern Virginia, which heavy LDS population. and Frostburg State. He spent some time as an assistant at UT Martin and James Madison, which he brags about in his opening press conference quite a bit when he basically gets asked the very question I'm questioning him on of why the FCS? You don't have any experience here. Why should we believe in you? He's like, I do have experience, UT Martin and James Madison. So he leaned on it, so I'm going to lean on it here on his rankings. He's 86-49 in his 13 seasons as a head coach, entering his 14th. 8 of those seasons were winning seasons. So he is a winner. He's 1-0 in bowl games and 3-2 in Division III playoffs. So this is one of those guys where you're trying to move him up the rankings in terms of being an NAIA D3, D2, getting him to FCS, and probably he's trying to make that leap to a FBS job. That said, he talks about how 10 years ago, he actually drove through Utah for something and fell in love with it. I think he was here recruiting when he's at Southern Virginia, he said. He would have to recruit out here a lot because of LDS kids, and it was an LDS majority school. So he was talking about how he wants to win Los Angeles, how he wants to win the Wabash Mountain Front, and even get better at the Arizona schools. So I think it's a good hire. The only thing that really concerns me is the closest he's coached to Cedar City is 1,620 miles away. So when you think of that, that's a extremely long distance. He has zero experience really out west other than recruiting. So we'll see. He wasn't necessarily a huge winner at Southern Virginia. He was at Frostburg State. So we don't know if necessarily his Utah recruiting was even that helpful. He has had 4 10-win seasons in 8 seasons before getting hired. And I just think, not quite enough to crack the top 15. He's a guy who I think has all the right tools, but also a lot of question marks around him concerning the Utah nature of not really having anything coached east of the Mississippi. Or west of the Mississippi, my apologies. At 15, I'm going with Presbyterian's hire of Steve Englehart. He's coming to him from the Florida Institute of Technology. It does sound like the Southampton Institute of Technology. I am aware for all you sandwich fans out there. It's his 12th season as a head coach. This will be his 3rd team. He's coached at Rose Holman and Florida Tech. So which is Florida Institute of Technology. It's just an interesting hire. I think he's 1-0 in bowls. It's his 12th season, as I mentioned. He's 0-2 in the D2 playoffs. He is an alumni of Indiana State and has spent 1 season there as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So has a little bit of FCS experience. And he has been a 2-time conference coach of the year. So he is a guy that has some experience winning. It's just whether he can make the jump to a school like Presbyterian that can be competitive with the right guy in there. Which is why I gave him the crack at 15 in our coaching hires. At 14, we have the Lafayette hire of John Troxell. He is coming to them from Franklin and Marshall College. He was the head coach there. He's returning to his alma mater. He went to school at Lafayette. You got to love that. It's his 2nd head coaching stint. So as I mentioned, he was at Franklin and Marshall for 16 seasons, amassing a 92-67 record, 1 conference title, and 2-time conference coach of the year. So a guy that has some accolades to his name, but as we mentioned, in 16 seasons, I think you want to see more than 1 conference title and 2 conference coaches of the year award. That said, I mean, he's a winner. He's 92-67. Had he spent 1 more season at Franklin and Marshall, he could have 100 wins at that school. Depending on what he's able to do at Lafayette, he could cross that mark this year. They're going to have 11 games. He only needs to win 8 of them. He has 100 wins as a head coach. That's something that just not a lot of guys above him or below him in these rankings are going to be able to claim or bolster their resumes up higher than anybody else's. But let's talk about the guys who I did bolster higher than him. At 13, we have the Abilene Christian hire of Keith Patterson. He's coming to them as the defensive coordinator for Texas Tech. That means that they literally poached a defensive coordinator from a Big 12 school. That's huge. It is his first head coaching stint. He did get to coach 1 game as an interim for Pittsburgh. They lost. He has some coaching experience though, and he spent a lot of his career around the Southwest, including actually 27 years of his collegiate career has been spent at either the P5, G5, or high school ranks in the Southwest. No FCS experience, which is worrisome, but a school like Abilene Christian that is really investing. I think the connections he has in the likes of like Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas. I think he's a guy that could make moves on the high school front, and Texas is not lacking for recruiting talent. So I, especially when you're coming from Texas Tech, this isn't a guy who just got hired from, offensive analyst at Texas State. This is the defensive coordinator of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. He has a little bit of pull. He has P5 experience, has G5 experience in and around the state of Texas and the Southwest. So I expect Keith Patterson to be a successful hire for Abilene Christian, just not one of the top hires to the 2021 offseason. At number 12, Maine hires Jordan Stevenson, the Yale assistant head coach and co-defensive coordinator. Anybody that's followed anything I've done with Idaho knows I love defensive coaches. I think it's a big argument about like, oh, everybody wants this offensive guy. But when you look at the guys who are defensive guys, you look at, I believe, Urban Meyer, you've got Bill Belichick, you've got Pete Carroll, you've got Nick Saban. Like, those are some of Mike Tomlin. These are some of the best coaches at any level of football, and they're defensive guys. You look at most of North Dakota State, it's either been offensive line, defensive guys. So it's something that I really like in a coach. And so obviously maybe that's what helped Maine get this hire a little higher. After this is one of the few jobs where the coach left for a better job. He got the offensive coordinator job. Nick Charlton left to go to UConn, arguably a better job to be the OC. But Stevens comes back as an alumni of the school, which I said I love seeing alumni come back and try to lead their schools to prominence again. Maine, a school that has a lot of tools at their disposal if they can pull it off. It is his first time being a head coach. He has spent 4 seasons at Maine as an assistant and spent 7 seasons at Yale as an assistant. So strictly Northeast FCS level experience. He's an alumni there, so he knows what they need, what they want to win. So I'm high on the Stevens hiring. He gets into the top 12. Moving into the last one to not make the top 10 coaching hires. And basically this is that halfway point of everybody above this guy is considered a top half hire. Everybody below this guy is considered a below average hire, and he is the middle hire. And we are getting our HBCU hire of Grambling State hiring Hugh Jackson. He's coming to them as the 1-year stint as the offensive coordinator under Eddie George at Tennessee State. But I mean, Hugh Jackson, if you don't know who Hugh Jackson is, I don't really know how to help you. It's his 3rd head coaching stint, first collegiately. He's been with Oakland. He's been with the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns one was there's some, I don't want to say controversy. Not everybody was on board with the firing. At the same time, his record was atrocious at Cleveland. In fact, his record's pretty atrocious overall. He's 11-44-1 all time with no winning seasons. 0. Has not had a single winning season as a head ball coach. But the experience he brings, I think, is why this is the perfect benchmark. If you're a school like Grambling that's just trying to kind of get back to where you were as a historic power, you just had the experience of seeing what Tennessee State was able to do in year 1 under Eddie George. You kind of get to see how it's a great time to be going back to an HBCU, as there's always been passion, but there's been I would say an increased tick in outside eyes on HBCUs with the hire of Dion, with the hire of Eddie George, and now with the hire of Hugh Jackson. I think this is a great hire for Grambling. He gets to go to arguably the biggest name in HBCUs. I know that's controversial out there, but I would say somebody who grew up in the Northwest, Grambling State was the HBCU I knew when I saw the Celebration Bowl. That was the team I would root for because it's who I knew. So I think it's a good hire for them. It's a great baseline hire. Is Hugh Jackson, because he has tons of experience in the NFL. It's going to attract players to go there. He has some collegiate experience. It is his first position since 2000, but he has coached at Pacific, Cal State Fullerton, Arizona State, Cal, and USC. So I mean, like I said, I thought this was the perfect baseline hire. He's a terrible head coach according to his resume, but his experience should mean that at a program like Grambling that provides him a lot of pieces, he should be decent to good as a hire. So Hugh Jackson being our halfway point here as we crack into the top 10 coaching hires of the 2021 offseason. At number 10, we have the incarnate word hire of G.J. Kenny. That one is a little bit of a tongue twister, but G.J. Kenny, he was the co-OC for the University of Central Florida Knights. You might know them as your 2018 national champions, I believe is what they tag. All right, I'm going to run through some things here. He has spent 5 years as a pro throughout the NFL and the CFL. He has a lot of red flags, to be honest with you. This is why he only made 10 and nothing higher. He did work with Gus Malzahn, obviously, at UCF. He did work for Doug Peterson at the Philadelphia Eagles, but it is his first stint as a head coach. He has only been an assistant 1 year everywhere he's been. 1 year at SMU, 1 year at Arkansas, 1 year at Philadelphia, 1 year at Hawaii, and 1 year at UCF. So he's moved a lot. That said, it's his 6th year in coaching, and he's oppressed enough to be the co-offensive coordinator of arguably the best G5 team who's about to be a P5 team. So obviously somebody respects him. And then Incarnate Word respects him enough to hire him to fill that spot. And the thing that I love is he is only 33 years old. This is a risk for Incarnate Word, but a team that was in a risky spot. They lose their coach who takes their quarterback to Washington State, who had their success. This is maybe how you can capture that. Get somebody young, the players will connect with, and just a lot of upside. Yes, there is downside, but if you're Incarnate Word, you're probably going to hit that downside anyways with the coaching change. Because this, to me, is about when you look at a program like Incarnate Word, I love to see them take the risk on the young guy who has – it's not like our young guy who doesn't have any experience. Yes, he's only got 6 years, but like I said, in that 6 years, he was thought of so highly that he became the co-offensive coordinator for one of the best teams in the country. So I like the G.J. Kinney hire. He's huge around the state of Texas. He's from Texas. Texas high school people will know him. He has a miraculous high school career. So this is a good hire for Incarnate Word and a great way to break in the top 10. At number 9, we have Prairie View A&M hiring of Bubba McDowell. Maybe the best name of all time, Bubba McDowell. I love it. Favorite, if we were ranking coaching names, Bubba wins for sure. He's replacing Eric Dooley, who actually left to take a new job within the SWAC. So that's controversial on its own right. But then he did win 2 national titles as a player at Miami. He had 7 years in the NFL, connections all over the Sunshine State and Texas, and Sunshine State is in Florida, not California. You know, the speed state, I guess, is a better way to put it when talking about athletics for Florida. 2 of the recruiting hotbeds of the United States of America. He seems like the perfect hire. It is his first head coaching job, but he was on the staff the previous 11 seasons at Prairie View A&M. So this is a coach who's been around the program, who is a guy who understands what Prairie View A&M needs to be. Finally will get handed the reins of not a terrible team, and really get a chance to make it his own, which is why I like the Bubba McDowell hire. Next up at number 8, we have Chris Wilkerson, the new head coach of Eastern Illinois. He's coming to them as the former head coach of the University of Chicago. He is an alumni of Eastern Illinois, so that is huge. It's actually his second head coaching stint of the University of Chicago. It's also his second stint with the Panthers. He was an assistant there from 95 to 2001, and yes, that is during the Tony Romo years. He's 51-27 all time as a head coach, which is why that's winning. He's going to be entering his 9th season. He's only had 1 losing season ever. one conference title, and he also was the assistant head coach for Dartmouth for 8 years. So this is a guy that knows FCS football through and through. He is a proven winner. He's been a winner in the state of Illinois, being the head coach of Chicago. I mean, this is a huge get for Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois needed to make a splash. It's a team that has pedigree at the FCS level, and I think bringing back an alumnus in Chris Wilkerson to really revitalize this team, who has seen the greatness of Tony Romo, who's been a great player for them, and now he understands how to recruit the Chicago area at a lower level if they're not going to go to Northwestern Illinois, Notre Dame, etc. A guy who I have confidence can bring this team back to prominence. At the 7th spot, we have Ricky Santos, the new head coach of New Hampshire. He's coming to them as a promotion. He's been around the program. He's spent 7 years at New Hampshire. He's also coached for 3 years at Columbia. At New Hampshire, he was a player. He was a 3-time All-American and a Walter Payton Award winner in 2006. So he's young, too, another young hire. Spent 5 years in the CFL. He started his collegiate coaching in 2013, so he's still kind of new, but not super new, not green behind the ears. It is his first head coaching stint, but I just think you look at a guy who's been around New Hampshire. He's also been there when, New Hampshire was notoriously a contender, a consistent playoff team. He understands that, and he understands what it takes to win. As a Walter Payton Award winner, he saw what it takes to get talented players to go to a program like New Hampshire. I think this is a slam dunk hire for the Wildcats. At number 6, we have Southern hiring Eric Dooley, former at Prairie View A&M. We just touched about his replacement in Bubba McDowell, but he played at Grambling, so as we touched on, kind of, in my opinion, the blue blood of the HBCUs. But he is an alumni of Southern, went back to school, actually got a master's degree as well, both Southerns. Spent 1 year in the Arena Football League for the Arizona Rattlers. He's in his second head coaching stint, obviously having success at Prairie View A&M, which got him to bounce into this job of Southern, which is another huge HBCU job, which is just so cool to see the HBCU making these awesome hires, and just everyone seems to just keep elevating that brand of football to where that what used to be kind of a message board fodder of could the HBCU, like the SWAC, move up to the FBS as a whole. Some of these hires are making that look more and more likely. I know there's a lot of they don't play in the playoffs, so we don't get to see them stuff from the majority of the SCS other fan bases, but be careful. The SWAC is hiring the right people to take care of business here going forward. He has spent 20 years collegiately coaching, all of which are with HBCUs. He's 20-17 all time and has won 1 division title with Prairie View A&M. Obviously, the fine folks at Southern expect him to continue, if not elevate, the success he has had. Eric Dooley, smash hire for Southern. At 5, this might be one of the first controversial ones. I'm going with Rich Rodriguez at Jacksonville State. I know he's probably the biggest name other than maybe Hugh Jackson to be hired in this circuit of the 2021 offseason, but it's still a top 5 hire, but it's not the number 1 hire. So I think some people think he's too high, and some people are going to think he's too low. It's his 5th coaching job. He started at Salem. He also coached at Glenville State. He went back to his alma mater of West Virginia, the Fighting Pat McAfee's, did it for the brand, and then obviously coached Pat. And he coached Michigan, Michigan. They can't, enough said, right? And then Arizona, which everyone's like, oh my God. He did not mess up Arizona. That was someone. Arizona under him actually won a conference title. He was a good coach at Arizona. He has a 163, 119, and 2 record all time. In that time, he spent 24 years as a head coach. 17 of those years are with a winning record. 17 of 24. He only has 7 losing seasons. That's actually, he's hitting his 4th season, so even less. He only has 6 losing seasons. He's 5-6 in bowl games, 2-1 in the NAIA playoffs. He has 9 conference titles. He has 1 national coach of the year. He has 5 conference coach of the years. And he was actually brought on. He's coming to them as the former offensive coordinator for University of Louisiana Monroe. The Warhawks brought him on under Terry Bowden, who obviously is the son of Bobby Bowden. But Terry spent 6 seasons at Samford. It might be something Rich Rod can lean on with having the minimal FCS experience. He still has a mentor in, say, of Terry Bowden, who did spend some time at Samford and is obviously off the coaching tree of one of the best college coaches of all time in Bobby Bowden, who has FCS experience. At number 4 is Western Illinois. The Leathernecks hire Myers Hendrickson from Kansas Wesleyan University. He was the head ball coach there. He is 31-4 after 3 seasons at Kansas Wesleyan, who is a very good program. 2-time KCAC champion, 1-2 in the NAIA playoffs. He is an alumnus of the Leathernecks. He played wide receiver there from 2008 to 2010. So another young hire. Obviously, I'm showing some bias. I like to see some teams take a little bit of a gamble on the younger guys, especially if it's their alma mater. Give them a shot, especially for a program like Western Illinois that's like, you can, unfortunately, the fans don't want to hear this, but the rest of the nation understands they can afford another 2 or 3 losing seasons. They're not trying to capitalize on any momentum at the moment. They don't have any uncertainty really in their conference, the Missouri Valley Conference, in terms of, you know, them getting dropped or folding and needing to position themselves to make a move up. They're nowhere in any of those positions. This is a program that can take a chance on an alumnus to rebuild the heart and soul of their program. Because what most people don't remember is Western Illinois is a very good historic program at the FCS. They've just been bad for the last 10, 15, 20 years. So look for Western Illinois to improve under Myers. I think this was obviously, he made my top 4. And this one might be where I get the most flack from 2 sides of the, depending. The Rich Rod one might be controversial to the outside people. People that have followed me for a while are either going to love or hate this ranking. At 3, I have Idaho hiring Jason Eck. He was the former offensive coordinator for South Dakota State. It is his first head coaching stint. It's his second stint in Idaho. He was there from 04 to 06. Part of that time he spent under Hall of Fame and national champion winning coach Dennis Erickson, who, you know, was part of making the U. So that's big. It's his second stint in the Big Sky, as he also spent time 1 season at Montana State coaching the O-line. I think this is a hire where if you paid any bit attention over the last couple of years at the FCS, South Dakota State has taken stride after stride after stride after stride since he has been elevated to the offensive coordinator role, culminating in a national championship appearance in 2020. Obviously, they lose Gronowski. Who knows how that game could have gone against Sam Houston if Gronowski was in it. I could be coming to you saying he is a national title winning coach. But I can't do that. It is a bit of a risk because it is his first head coaching stint. He's not old, but he's not young. He has Power 5 experience. He is a Wisconsin grad, but he has had success at the FCS level with 2 of the FCS's most brand recognizable teams. So he said all the right things. He's done the right bits of recruiting. I think this is the 3rd best hire in the FCS this year, with Jason Eck going to Idaho. At number 2, I have Gary Goff going to McNeese. Lake Charles, you're welcome. You have somebody coming home who are coming to hopefully bring back the winning mentality of McNeese. Another big, it's funny how like 4 or 5 of the last schools are all like sleeping giants, if you were, like schools that have historically been good that have just stunk the last decade plus, McNeese being one of those. It's his 3rd stint as a head coach but they're all coming from lower levels. Tiffin and Valdosta State, never fired, always promoted. That's always big when considering these guys. He's only moved up the rankings, never had to stop, go back, be an analyst somewhere, coordinator somewhere. He's just continued to move up. Valdosta State is a powerhouse at his respected level. It'll be his 11th season as a head coach. He's 60-53 in all times, 3-2 in the D2 playoffs. He has 2 conference titles, back-to-back 10-win seasons, 5 straight winning seasons, and 3 seasons as an assistant coach at the FCS level at Southern Louisiana and Princeton. So has the FCS experience. Hasn't been a loser in half of a decade. back-to-back 10-win seasons, 10 and actually an 11-win season, and conference titles in basically 10 seasons. So you can basically say once every 5 years he's going to win the conference. He's going to every 2 years basically have a winning season. And once every 5 years, you're going to have a 10-win season. Like, that's pretty dang good if you're looking for a hire to come in and change the culture around your program. He's been around winning programs. He's been around programs like Valdosta State. He has all the tools in his arsenal to turn McNeese back into a power. Which means if you know anything about anything of who's left, the number one hire, which was probably also the most controversial firing, goes to Delaware. I think the Ryan Carty hire is the number one hire in the FCS this offseason. He is only 38 years of age. He comes to them as the Sam Houston offensive coordinator, winning a national title, not only as a coach, but also as a player, as he's an alumni and former quarterback of the Delaware Blue Hens. He has spent 10 seasons at New Hampshire when they were consistently making the playoffs in the Colonial Athletic Association. And like I said, he spent the 4 past years at Sam Houston State, where he won a national title under head coach Casey Keeler, probably a mentor. Also won a national title at Delaware. This hire is, in my opinion, unarguably the best hire of the 2021 offseason. But I want to know from you guys down below in the YouTube comment section, who do you guys think was the best hire of the 2021 offseason? I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one. Hey, thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this video. Us here at FCS Fans Nation Network are pushing 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube page. We really want to get there. If you've made it this far, you might as well hit the subscribe button in the middle of the screen or down below. We would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, there's a couple other videos up on the screen. Might as well give them a listen too. You don't know who else on the network you'll like.